the WRAL Daily Download.
Well, today I sit down with Aimee Wilmoth, our executive weather producer, to talk about North Carolina earthquakes. Didn't know that they happen here on the East Coast. They're not as strong as the ones in the West Coast, but still something that's mindful and something that you guys should be aware of. Here's that conversation. Hello, everybody. I want to welcome in Aimee Wilmoth, our executive weather meteorologist. Just want to appreciate you for all that you do. And we're here to talk today about earthquakes, right? Mm-hmm. So for people that don't know, a 2.7 earthquake was reported in western North Carolina on the Macon-County, and Jackson County line on Monday evening. So I wanted to talk a little bit about earthquake frequency. I didn't know that was a thing in North Carolina. What's going on? What do you have for us today?
So we actually get them fairly frequently. The thing is with the earthquakes that happen in North Carolina is they're typically very weak. So we're talking about magnitude 1 to 3, and we can get dozens of those per year, but we don't hear about a lot of them because you can't feel them because they're so weak. Now, the felt earthquakes, ones you can feel, things are shaking, 3 to 4 magnitude.
Oh, okay.
We get those every few years in North Carolina. So not even very often do we get 3 to 4. You mentioned this one was 2.7.
2.7.
So, some people felt it, but it was very, very minor. And then strong earthquakes, magnitude 4 to 5. We get those every 10 to 30 years or so. So that does not happen very often. And the last time that happened was, a lot of people know if they were here in 2020, it happened in Sparta. There was a pretty strong earthquake in August, and we could feel it here in North Carolina. And Sparta is in the northern part of the North Carolina mountains, so we could feel that all the way here in Raleigh. That's the last time we had one that was strong. That it caused a lot of building damage. I think 19 people lost their homes. Oh, wow. One person was injured, but it caused a lot of I think 100 different buildings were heavily damaged. But that was in the Sparta area. Here we could feel it, but it didn't cause any damage here locally.
So it sounds like I've never been in an earthquake to my knowledge, and I may have been in an earthquake and not felt it because it was that 1 to 3 range as well. Kind of what sets that system? Where does that system come from?
So most of the felt earthquakes in North Carolina, the earthquakes are coming from the North Carolina mountains.
Okay.
So that's strictly North Carolina that we're talking about. So most of ours are going to come from the mountains where we have some very old fault lines underneath the mountains. There's still some shifting that's happening within the plate itself. And so that's when we start to get some earthquakes. Now, in North Carolina, I found this interesting. When you said we're going to do this segment, I said, let me do a little bit of research. Our earthquakes are called intraplate earthquakes, meaning they happen within a certain tectonic plate. The ones in California, so those are the ones that we hear about. They're strong, things are shaking, and we see video of those frequently. Those are interplate. So the difference is those are happening at the edge of a particular plate, and most people know about the San Andreas Fault. So that's separating two different, the Pacific plate and the North American plate. And so when you have them happen on those edges, those tend to be a bit stronger. Here, they're happening within a certain plate, not on an edge of a plate, so they're fairly weak. One thing, though, that is interesting here compared to the western part of the country, they travel, you're feeling them over a larger distance. So most of our stronger earthquakes are happening in the North Carolina mountains, but we still feel them here. And that's because our crust, so think back to elementary school, the top layer, the rocks are hundreds of millions of years old. So it's an old crust, it's a colder crust compared to what they have in California, and that allows the tremor to travel more efficiently over land. So that's why we can feel it all the way in Raleigh sometimes when they're happening in the mountains. The rock or the crust in California, they're tens of millions of years old.
So they're older.
They're younger.
Oh, they're younger.
They're younger.
There we go. Okay, I get it.
More unstable. And here it's an old crust, hundreds of millions of years around. And so that's why you feel them in a farther distance in North Carolina. I found that interesting when I was looking some stuff up.
So how does earthquakes play into forecasting and meteorology as well? Because, you know, when they say, hey, go talk to the weather team, I didn't think like, obviously you guys are scientists, but it's like it kind of really falls in your territory as well. Talk to me a little bit about that.
One of our coworkers was just asking me, hey, why are they talking to you about earthquakes? That's not meteorology. It's geology. But we're the station scientists. And so y'all are going to come to us when there's anything science related. You know, this is kind of our jam. We like to do the research. And we did take classes. I had to take classes on this in college as well. As far as forecasting, it's pretty much impossible forecasting earthquakes, especially these earthquakes in North Carolina where you're dealing with a very old fault lines underneath the North Carolina mountains. It's just almost impossible to predict. Even the ones on the West Coast, they're very difficult to predict. Yeah.
No, I totally understand because there's sci-fi movies where they create something to predict it. Well, that means it hasn't been invented yet in our reality as well. Is there any progress towards making that you may know of? Or is it probably always going to be difficult to predict and forecast earthquakes?
You know, with the way things change so fast in the AI world, I have a feeling that at some point in time we'll be better at making those predictions. Especially in the fault lines that aren't so old, that aren't so deep. Maybe they'll get better at it, but you know, I don't know. As of now, I don't know of a good forecasting tool.
Absolutely. Well, you kind of blew my mind explaining how the West Coast is younger and the East Coast is older, and that's why it's going to move more efficiently as well. And I'm a science geek myself in my free time, so I'm definitely going to look up that and look up videos as that as well. Is there anything else in your research that we may have missed?
Yeah. I'm trying to look over my notes here. I might have to put on my glasses.
Oh man, Aimee.
Well, you know, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about fault zones.
Okay, talk about fault zones.
Well, the reason that we have these more frequently in the North Carolina mountains is because that's where we have a pretty big fault system. It's called the Appalachian Mountains Seismic Zone.
Interesting. Okay, talk to me.
And so you have this one area. Really, it's just west of North Carolina, but there's still a cluster along the North Carolina mountains where you have a cluster of where we frequently get these earthquakes.
Okay.
And again, that's called the Appalachian Mountain Seismic Zone. And that's why we see them more frequently in the North Carolina mountains. However, we do have the Carolina Slate Belt, which runs right through central North Carolina, right through Raleigh. So we have a little bit of a fault zone in central North Carolina.
Just a little bit.
But it's going to be really minor, weak earthquakes that most people won't be able to feel.
Okay.
And then there's the Triassic Basin, which is just west of us as well. So I was looking up the different fault zones, but the reason they're so frequent in the North Carolina mountains is because of that seismic zone. Where we've seen most of them happen, which is where this one happened last night.
Well, good to know. And here at WRAL, safety is paramount. So let's close out with some safety tips. If you are caught in an earthquake as well, obviously, you know, get something over your head. I've heard move outdoors.
Yeah.
What other tips have you heard about if you're stuck in an earthquake?
That's the big one that I've heard is get outside just in case, you know, something crumbles to the ground. Like that's something more like what you would see in the western part of the country.
For sure.
But yeah, I think going outside is the biggest tip. Protecting your head, which is important to do in those situations. But around here, they're just so weak that you probably just can it's just going to be like, oh, wow, gee, what is this? Which is what happened in 2020.
Oh, wow.
A lot of people in our area, including at the station, they're like, what is that?
Yes.
What's going on? So it's so minor that it might move your picture a little bit that you have to adjust or something on the wall. But there's really no big impacts in central North Carolina. Even back in 2020, that was Sparta in the mountains, and it was focused right, I think, within a 40-mile range where they had the damage from like homes and businesses and things like that. I think it'd be pretty rare for central North Carolina.
Well, I'm glad I live in central North Carolina as well, because being in an earthquake is not on my bucket list.
Right, yeah.
It is not.
It's kind of cool, really. It's kind of like really,
okay.
I don't know. It's a little jarring. You're wondering what's going on, but And in your mind doesn't go to, oh, that's an earthquake, because we don't live on the West Coast.
No, not at all.
But nowadays, you'll get push alerts from WRAL as soon as we know what happened.
Exactly, and you guys kill it with the push alerts. You guys are on it. And if you guys don't know, our meteorology team, they're on it. They write the push alerts. They're setting the forecast. They are the ones that put in that 7-day forecast as well. So everything has a human touch here, and that's why I love you guys as well. So anyway, social plugs. Where can people find you? Where can people find your reporting as well? Yeah,
I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, WRAL Aimee Wilmoth. Instagram, I'm Aggie WX Girl.
Texas A&M.
That's right, Texas A&M, gig 'em. I'm on X, I think. Can't remember the handle for that one, but if you just look up Aimee Wilmoth, you'll find it.
Absolutely, and always Google Aimee Wilmoth at WRL.com as well. So thank you so much for some of your time, and I love this conversation.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for listening to the WRAL Daily Download. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email with Triangle news, events, and headlines to help you get ready for the day. You can sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.